So when I look at you, David, I'm not actually seeing you. What I'm actually seeing is a pattern in my brain that is informing me about who you are.
Hey, what's up, Masters? Welcome to another episode of Path to Mastery. And today we are with Adele. And I'm just going to call you Adele today because I should have asked you before. I like to be able to pronounce people's last names. But how do you pronounce your last name, just so we get it right?
It's Spraggon. Rhymes
Spraggon.
with dragon. Easy to remember.
It's what I would have said, but I did want to just let you say it first. So thank you for joining us today, Adele.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And you are an award-winning author, a thought leader, an international speaker and trainer. And you wrote the book, it's Shift, the 4 steps to personal empowerment.
Right. Correct.
And you are, let me go through your bio too. Well, first off, thanks for being here today.
You're welcome.
And we also, even though you're not on Clubhouse yet, you need to get on Clubhouse because we're streaming on Clubhouse because that's my new thing. So I'm inviting some people up who will actually may have some questions for you after.
Perfect. Love questions.
I told, yeah, me too. It's my favorite. So I told some other people to come up, and if you guys could, Jen, let me mod you, and Jen can help me hopefully facilitate the room, and Bobby will invite you up as well. Okay. So, well, let me tell people first off who you are. I've got your bio. You're a woman of Inspiration Award, and let me start at the beginning. She's been awarded the 2020 Woman of Inspiration Award, and in 2021 was recognized as the top behavioral expert of the year. Wow, that's pretty cool, huh? Her book Shift: 4 Steps to Personal Empowerment has won 3 awards and is sweeping the globe, transforming how people are setting and achieving their goals. After decades of feeling stuck in patterns of procrastination, avoidance, and quitting, all of which had her living her life below her fullest potential, Adele set out on a journey of discovery and learning. Her inquiry, why the personal and professional methodologies she was following did not work for her. The result is the creation of her proprietary 4-step repatterning technique, which she delivers through a member portal called Pattern Makers Hub. Today she supports thousands globally to achieve extraordinary levels of happiness, peace, mind, prosperity, goal achievement, and life fulfilling. And for me, that was pretty good because I butcher bios pretty good. It's like my thing here, but anyway, appreciate having you. And yeah, you've done some really good, awesome stuff.
Thank you. I have. Yes.
That's amazing. So
and from somebody who used to have my patterns, that is quite an achievement. So yeah.
So yeah, well, I want to talk about that. I want to get back to it. You said, reading through this, there was something that stuck out to me both times. It says the 4-step repatterning technique. What's a repatterning technique?
Great question. So the human brain is structured in such a way to create patterns. It has no choice but to create patterns. So I'll just explain to your audience exactly what that means. Our brain is inside this dark and bony skull. There's no sight in here. There's no sound. There's no taste. There's no touch. There's nothing in the brain other than electrical impulses. And so how the brain works is we look at information out there in the world. Sensory data streams in through our senses. We see something, hear something, taste something, smell something. And that sensory data then is translated by the brain into a pattern which allows you to take action. Okay. So when I look at you, David, I'm not actually seeing you. What I'm actually seeing is a pattern in my brain that is informing me about who you are. Now, that's just really exciting news, because once we know how our brain works to create patterns, if something isn't working for us, then we have an option to change it. If I have to change you or change the situation, I'm working very, very hard to change something external to myself. But if all I have to do is transform my own internal pattern in order to have a different relationship with you or to the situation, now I'm empowered. And that's why I call it 4 steps to personal empowerment, because that's exactly what we get. We get to own and shift everything as long as we know how our brain works. And you muted, David.
Okay, awesome. See, this is what happens with Clubhouse going, this is beverages. All right. So I heard what you said, yet I didn't completely hear what you said. And partially because I'm goofing around, going back and forth here, and Clubhouse wasn't getting audio, somebody told me. But what I did write down is you mentioned when you meet somebody or see somebody, you're seeing a pattern of who you think they are, right?
Yeah. So our brain is adept at creating patterns, and it creates patterns very, very quickly. So let me just back up a minute. Unlike other animals who are born knowing instinctively what to do, human beings are born pretty much a blank slate. So from the time somebody enters into this world, they have to create patterns in their brain in order to know what actions to take. So every situation that a person encounters, their brain very quickly pieces together the information from that situation and forms a pattern. And now that pattern takes priority in the brain. So the next time the person encounters a similar situation, the brain goes, oh, great, I don't have to reinvent the wheel here. I can just use whatever they did last time, whatever action that person took last time, and reuse it again in this situation. You want to know why people keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again? It is because of that, right? Because once the brain forms a pattern, it prefers to rely on that pattern rather than create a brand new pattern out of a situation. So when we are little and our brain is creating all of these patterns, yeah, pretty much you can guess that you probably weren't good enough for certain of your situations when you were 5 years old, right? But the brain doesn't care. It's going to continue to hold on to that pattern as long as it can until it is forced to create another pattern. And that's what I learned. That's why I was so stuck. I kept taking the same action of quitting over and over and over again. And no matter what I did, I would just turn tail and run every time I hit a certain snag in my business. Okay. And I couldn't figure it out. Logically, I was like, there's no reason for this. Like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't be taking these actions. I tried everything under the sun. Positive thinking and rescripting the story, therapy, everything I could imagine. Nothing worked. And I just couldn't get it. And then I learned about patterns and I went, oh, I understand. My pattern is taking an action to quit. I'm not choosing to quit. As soon as I remove that pattern, now I have a new option. Now I don't have to quit. But as long as that pattern lives in my brain, I'm stuck following that old action over and over again.
So listening, what it makes me think about is somebody that changes direction a lot, right? Like, try this out. You kind of get to a certain place, you're excited about it. And then all of a sudden you end up, well, that was a lot harder than I thought, right? So you end up going in a different direction. And then, oh, well, that was different than I thought. And then is that kind of what you're like, is that part of that?
I think what you're doing is you're describing somebody with a pattern that I would call shiny object syndrome, in which, there's constantly something new,
like
something
myself.
different. Oh, okay. Okay.
Although there's certain things I've stuck to, but yeah, I do tend to jump around a bit more than I probably want to anymore.
Okay. Yeah. So the reason you do that, David, it's a fantastic example. The reason you do that is because you have a pattern in your brain that jumps around. Now, I'm just going to let that soak in for a minute. It's nothing to do with the situation. It's nothing to do with the results that you're getting. It's just simply because you have a pattern in your brain that jumps around. Now, doesn't that simplify life a lot? Like, if somebody procrastinates, right? And they say to me, why am I procrastinating? And I say, wrong question. The reason you're procrastinating is because you have a pattern in your brain that procrastinates. Let's remove that pattern, and now you won't procrastinate anymore. David, let's remove the pattern for jumping around, and now you won't jump around anymore. You'll be focused. You'll be on track. You'll
If
get
I
where
like
you want to
jumping
go.
around and do it, no, I'm just kidding.
Unless it works for
Yeah,
you,
no,
right? So
yeah,
that's the
exactly.
other beautiful thing about playing with patterns rather than trying
Well,
to
you have
fix
to know
something.
what to like, right? It's like there's always a time, and that's the magic question: is how do you know when you right?
Oh,
Like
I love that question. I'll answer it. How do you know if a pattern
if you
is
keep,
working or
yeah,
not, right?
yep.
Okay. You have a built-in guide, which is also provided by our brain. And that built-in guide is two things. You know a pattern isn't working for you if you're suffering. Okay. So if there's any form of internal suffering, you can bet that you've got an unworkable pattern in the box that needs to be removed. The other way you know is if you're creating conflict in your situation. So if you're not getting to your goals, you might feel okay lying on the couch eating bonbons, but the conflict is then external to you. That's also a sign of an internal pattern that's not working. So those two things, if there's conflict external in your relationships and your ability to get to your goal, it's an unworkable pattern. If you're suffering internally, it's an unworkable pattern. Both of those are opportunities to repattern or deconstruct the old pattern, pull it apart.
I want to get to your book, Shift, the 4 steps. I want to know the 4 steps, but I have to. So how do we remove that pattern? Like what does that look like for somebody?
Yeah. So those 4 steps are outlined exactly in my book. It's a 2-minute technique. It's done in the privacy of one's own head. There's nothing that. I mean, your brain wants to create patterns. It wants to constantly correct old patterns. We just haven't taught it how. That's the only problem on the planet today. So the 4 steps are, number 1, identify the pattern. So remember I said this is a bony skull in here and our brain is locked inside this dark, silent room. We need to first identify what that pattern is. So a pattern, how we know what a pattern is, it's an intertwined physical sensation, emotion, thought. When the 3 aspects of our being come together, it results in a particular action. Okay, so that's step 1, identify it. Step 2, we're going to flip that switch. It's not occurring out there. The problem is not in the situation. The problem is in that pattern. So we're going to own it as a pattern. That is step 2. Step 3, we are going to deconstruct or tease it apart. I want you to think about a neural pathway in your brain. We're just going to gently just tease that pattern apart. It will then snap into new channels. You will then have an opportunity to take new actions. So that's the 3rd step, deconstruct. It's done through an observation technique. We're just going to witness it. Okay, that's a little tricky, that step. It's outlined in my book exactly how to do it. And then step 4 is where we start that process of creating new patterns, the new patterns that are going to take us to the goal. Now, how effective is this? Typically, personal development, professional development approaches, SMART goals, all of that stuff, they result in about a 25% success rate, if that. Okay, dieting is like a 4% success rate. So, somewhere between 4 and 25%. This method, when you start working with your patterns, 87% of my participants who use this technique reach their goals and exceed them, excel past them. It is that effective. We on this planet today have one problem and one problem only. Nobody has taught us how to work with our brain in the way it is designed. That's it. We've been brought up in a left brain world that is positioning thought over our actions, when actually our actions are coming before our conscious awareness.
So is this a process of, is it a writing, a process, a meditation?
No,
process?
it's none of that. It honestly, it's a 2-minute technique that you're going to do in the privacy of your own head. You're going to start by creating a list of actions, behaviors, beliefs that are not working for you in one area of concern. So if we took business, for example, right? If somebody is
you're not even going to write it down. You're just doing it in your head, is what you're saying.
Just doing it in your head.
Okay.
Yeah. Once you have a list of items that you need to repattern, right? A list of actions, behaviors, beliefs that are not working for you, then it's a 2-minute technique that you're going to just do every day. And after six weeks, most people 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, that entire list, literally, you are crossing that off, going, I don't know who wrote this. It wasn't me. That's how effective it is. You just step out of one identity into another identity. And I can actually guarantee that that happens. That's how effective the tool is.
No, is that happening through like an awareness? Is that what ends up starting to happen?
Well, definitely awareness comes first. We spend way too much time correcting our problems today rather than identifying them as a problem, right? So our mind is very quick to try and jump to a solution. So for the first 2 weeks, we just bring awareness to what the problem is. So we just bring awareness to our patterns, and that's part of the process. We take it one step at a time. So one step a week, right? 2 weeks is spent on bringing awareness, identifying, understanding, and then we start the process of owning, and then we start the process of removing the pattern.
I love it. Yeah, I think it's something we all need to definitely, at least I know I need to work. I'm speaking for myself, I guess, right? I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I've got some patterns.
The joy and the peace of mind when we know that there's nothing broken about us. There's nothing we need to fix about us. Our brain is just working on patterns. Some of them work, some of them don't. The joy and the ability to just relax into life is just amazing, right? Like I have people who say to me, oh my gosh, like I've spent decades stuck in one area of concern over and over again. And in 6 weeks, they're free. It's just remarkable.
That's awesome. What's funny is this year I just kind of realized and admitted that I'm more of an introvert than you know what I mean? It's just, and it's weird because I always wanted to be like this extrovert, and I can act like an extrovert because I'm a salesman. I've been selling for 36 years, right? But I'm really an introvert. And I think once I became okay with that, it helped me become better at just being a speaker and doing what I do. And you know what I mean? I don't know if that's kind of in line with what you're saying, but it just helped a lot. And it's more of a, I don't know if it's an awareness, but maybe it's just I don't know if it's an awareness or it's just a acceptance. I don't know.
Yeah, but I'll say something surprising, David. Even something that appears so fundamental to us as I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert is too a pattern. And if it, I am neither of those. I am just adaptable. So sometimes I'm an introvert if that's what the situation requires. Sometimes I'm an extrovert if that's what the situation requires. And our adaptable brain is able to transform at that level and just arise as we should in the situation.
This is good coaching. Thank you. I appreciate this. I got to use that. All right. That's awesome. All right. So question, why is the world in conflict? That's actually,
that's a great question. Yeah. We live in a very left brain dominant world. So what has happened over time is your brain is divided down the center by what is called the corpus callosum. And the corpus callosum is just a band of tissue, which just separates the two hemispheres. Our left hemisphere, because of education, overeducation of our left hemisphere, has become the dominant hemisphere. And our left hemisphere is what we could call where our patterning is occurring. Okay, now I'm really simplifying the brain right now, guys. So if you're neuroscientists out there, please ignore everything I'm about to say from here on in. But it works for simplicity. So we could say that the left brain patterning is all about you. It's all about the past, those past experiences where those patterns are stored and those patterns continue to be used. And we have overemphasized those. But there is another hemisphere of our brain, which is the right hemisphere. And our right hemisphere is always on board, always drinking in everything in the current moment. Okay, so it's nothing about your past. It's actually nothing really about you. It's about this situation, what you're in right now. As we have been cut off from that right hemisphere, it has created more and more conflict because think about it. If it's all about you, then you need to take care of you. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to take care of the other in the process, right? I'm going to be thinking only about myself, my wants, my beliefs, my behaviors, what I need, right? And if you don't enter into what I need, then I'm cut off from you because I'm cut off from my right hemisphere. In the process of repatterning, you will rebuild communication to your right hemisphere. And people just naturally then take care of the group. Conflicts just melt away. I work with couples who are on the verge of divorce. They become like newlyweds again within 6 weeks. It's just this natural bonding that occurs when we're using our whole brain rather than operating out of our left brain. And so that's the source of conflict on this planet. When we can rebuild the communication back to our right hemisphere, all of that melts away. And I've seen it in every single one of my groups. I've seen it in all the teams that I work with in workplaces. I've seen it in couples. I've seen it in families. It is just remarkable.
Well, I really appreciate your work. And I think it's something everybody needs to, it needs to understand, more at a deeper level. So what, let me ask you, what other question should I be asking? Like what's a question that you get asked? Or that you, maybe a question that you don't get asked that you want to be asked? What would that question be?
That's a great question. I mean, I'm often asked, like, how can I apply this to what areas of my life? So we can talk a little bit about that. I work with people who have everything from addictions to minor concerns in relationship, right? Parenting issues, relationship issues, excuse me. Even something, it's amazing the things that cause us to suffer. Any voice in your head that says, I'm not good enough, that is so worth repatterning, right? Yeah. Because it's amazing how much you can actually achieve when you are working from optimal patterns versus patterns from your past. Remember I said earlier, when you were little, it's highly likely that the patterns that you created weren't good enough today. But we don't know how much we're capable of until we let go of those old patterns. So if you're suffering, it is so worth repatterning.
So we just bring these patterns with us from our childhood many times through our whole life. And
but I do want to say one thing about that. One of the things that always used to catch me up in my prior personal development approaches, professional development approaches, where people used to say to me, well, where did that originate from, Adele? What was the originating incident? And I don't have many memories from my childhood. I just don't have them. All right. And so now I had two problems. I had the problem that I had, which was quitting. And then I had the problem of not being able to find the originating incident. So, right now I had double the problems, and then more problems keep piling on. Please, you don't need to do any of that. You don't need to know where something originated. Yes, a pattern was created in your childhood. Yes, that pattern continues to take an action. But to identify it, all you need to know is what's happening now, here in this moment. That's all you need. And that's where we can work from. So if you know the originating incident, like say somebody has a trauma from the past where they know that is something that happened, that too can be repatterned. But if you don't, it's not an issue. You can identify just from here. So you also talked about patterns of procrastination, avoidance, quitting. Those are some of the things that you were going through. So if that occurs, it doesn't occur. I'm guessing it doesn't occur now, right? Like it doesn't even occur to you to quit, or does it still? No, not at all. That's the difference. In the old traditional approaches, you are constantly having to reaffirm your commitment to your goals, right? That's part of professional and personal development. Forget it. You literally, I am stepped out of one identity into another. And I have done it in so many areas of my life. I did it with drinking. Some people would have said I was an alcoholic. I mean, I drank bottle and a half a night. Repatterned it, step out of one identity when I was a drinker into another identity. I'm just not. Okay. Quitting. I quit over and over and over again, repattern it. You don't think about quitting. You just move from I was somebody who quit to I was somebody who doesn't think about quitting, just never enters my head. People pleasing, same thing. I mean, and it doesn't matter. I've watched every single person on this planet who works with repatterning do it that way. You just leave it behind. It's just, that was who I was, and now I'm just not.
Yeah, this is cool. I'm going to get a copy. I got to grab a copy of your book. I liked what you said to me about the, like, it's a coaching moment for me. Like, with the, being an introvert versus an extrovert. Because you're right. I am ambivert in my book. That's what I call myself, an ambivert, which really is just somebody in the middle. But the reality is you just do what you feel like doing, right? Sometimes I feel like talking, other times I don't. Sometimes I feel like just keep my, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that
Exactly.
it's cool. It's like liberating to
Yes.
think like that, right?
Yeah, you got it. You got it. There's only one thing that we can honestly say about the human brain, and that is we are adaptability itself. That's it. If anything, we're just shapeshifters. We have a very misunderstanding about who we are as individuals. And we tend to think that we're fixed identities that need to be understood and labeled. We're not. We're adaptability. That's how our brain works. It just changes all the time. It's fluid, it's in flow. And if we can embrace that and run with it, now we have real power.
I like it. Yeah, I like it. So let me see. Does anybody on Clubhouse have any questions for Adele? If you do, just give me a mic flash. Okay, I don't think we have any questions. Bobby, you any? No. All right, so we don't have any.
That's because I'm such a
now.
great teacher, David.
You are. Oh, hold on. I think Jason just came up. He may have a question. Jason, do you have a question, sir?
You know what? No, not really a question. I just wanted to say thank you, Dad. The coach, you said it was.
Can you hear Jason?
You, David, I think it was coaching for me.
I'm sorry, Jason. I just wanted to make sure.
David interrupted you.
Yeah, my apologies. I was just making sure you could hear it. That's why. My apologies. Jason,
no, you're good, my friend. No, I said no general questions. I just wanted to say thank you. You said it was coaching for you, man. It was a lot of coaching for me too, man. I got a page full of notes.
That's awesome. So how, Adele, how do people, if they want to get in touch with you, get more, learn more, what's the best way to do that?
Well, I'd love to give them a copy of my book. You can get one free. All I ask is people pay for shipping. You can get it on my website. So adelespraggon.com. Just go under book there and you're welcome to grab a copy. There's also some free training on there. You can gain 30-day access to all of my content, all of my learning through my Pattern Maker Hub, and you can try it out, see if you like it for you. So there's lots of options. It depends on how people like to learn. If you're a reader, I suggest the book. The 4 steps is in there. If you prefer video lessons, I suggest the Hub. And if you just want to taste, just to know more about left brain, right brain, then that free video training is on that website too.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you. I appreciate you doing this right now. I think you gave us some great value today, and I'm going to encourage everybody if you're listening to this now, go stop, get a copy of Adele's book, go to her website. You can get the book for free. You just pay shipping. There's also other stuff, other good information on the site, adelespraggon.com. Is that accurate?
That's it. Rhymes with dragon.
It rhymes with dragon. And then final question, Adele, is, well, I'm going to give you 2 questions today. So one is, what's the one thing you want everyone to take that listen to this today? What do you want them to walk away with?
There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. Okay. No matter what action you're taking that is not working, it is simply a brain pattern. No matter what behavior you're adopting, I don't care if you've been stuck in it for decades. It is just simply a pattern, and pattern can be changed. That's my number one message.
I think I may call at least the subtitle is "Nothing Wrong with You." That's probably not a bad. Okay. And then
nothing to fix, nothing broken.
Nothing broken, nothing to fix. And then the final thought is Path to Mastery, name of my podcast. What does that mean to you?
What does that mean? To me, it means path to mastering the ability to adapt to any situation that you're in, right? I like to say that there's 2 options inside patterns. If we're running on old patterns, we arrive into our situations. But if we're running on optimal patterns, which are created for the situation, we just arise into the situation optimally. That to me is what mastery is. It's the ability to master the flow of life.
I love it. Well, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it. It was super awesome fun. I got some free coaching. You can never go wrong with some good coaching. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome, David.
I'm going to get a copy of your book right away. And so shouldn't you that you're listening to this right now.
Love it. Thank you.